Howdy, folks, and welcome back, everybody. I'm T.S. The Colorcast is on the air now for June the 24th, 1997, from CBS in Los Angeles. Faye Dunaway, the great movie star and actress, is here tonight for a return visit, and Stephen Stark, who has a wonderful book out on television way back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. He's put together his 60 all-time favorite shows, one of which was the Today Show, which I want to speak about in a second. But last night here, I talked to you about a missile that went up from Vandenberg Air Force Base, and I said, I wish I had the video. And it was on the news tonight here in Southern California, and here's what this thing looked like on liftoff yesterday, or late last night, from Vandenberg Air Force Base. This was an unarmed Minuteman missile launched from the Air Force Base. The trail was the burning fuel, and the erratic path that you'll see here was caused by winds affecting the vapor trail as the rocket went up over the Pacific. Now here is what was seen from the ground here in Los Angeles last night. And for a time we had thought the missile had gone off course and they blew it up. This is not the case. As a matter of fact, it rendezvoused with another missile on target last night as they tested the guidance system. But apparently talk radio here in Southern California had all kinds of other guesses, UFOs, alien invasions, men from Mars and that. But it was about $25 or $30 million worth of American technology at work in the skies over Southern California last night. May I tell you here for a second about a man that I met early on in my TV network career at NBC, whose name is Mort Werner. God rest his soul. Mort at the time, and I met him back in 1972, 73, was the director of programming for the NBC television network and was instrumental in getting me to NBC and the Tomorrow Show back in the early 1970s. And at one point in his career, Mort was the executive producer of the Today Show before it went on the air in January of 1952. And coincidentally, if you saw the movie Network, for which Faye Dunaway, my friend and guest tonight, won the Oscar, there's a scene at the beginning of that picture where the news director of the TV network in the picture, as played by William Holden, is with Peter Finch, who played Howard Beale, and you see them in a cab, and they're telling the cab driver, if my memory is correct in this picture, to go to the top of the George Washington Bridge. Now, in real life, Mort Werner and Dave Garroway hailed a cab at 6th Avenue and 49th Street on the morning of January 14th, 1952, at about 5:30 or quarter of 6 in the morning, to take a cab to the center of the George Washington Bridge, from whence the first telecast of the Today Show would be done, okay, where New York and New Jersey come together in this beautiful bridge overlooking New York and New Jersey. So they get in the cab, and they say to the cabbie, take us to the top, to the center of the George Washington Bridge. And the cabbie, thinking that they're going to go up there to jump off the bridge and commit suicide, takes them instead to the 17th precinct of the New York City Police Department. And Mort Werner and Dave Garroway are protesting all the way. They say, you don't understand, we have to do the Today Show. And the guy says, what in the hell is the Today Show? And they said, well, it goes on NBC at 7 o'clock in the morning. And the guy says, well, there is no television at 7 o'clock in the morning. You people are cuckoo, we're going to the police station. And it took them the better part of a half an hour to convince the cops and the authorities that they were going there to do television and not to kill themselves. Little anecdotal story about the early days of television in New York City. Anyway, that kind of story from Stephen Stark as we look back at TV from the beginning, and Faye Dunaway, who is starring now in a brilliant production of the play Master Class here in Los Angeles, which is on the tour and maybe on the way to your town as well. Settle back, fire up the color teenies, and get us to the center of the George Washington Bridge. We'll be right back.
If you really want to be a volunteer literacy...
Faye Dunaway has won the Oscar, the Emmy, and the bragging rights to having appeared in some outstanding movies that include Bonnie and Clyde, Network, and Chinatown. She is currently enjoying her role in the stage play Master Class at the Doolittle Theater here in Los Angeles through July 13th, getting great reviews and standing ovations when it comes to an end for the curtain call. Faye, welcome back, and thanks for coming to CBS. You're not on the boards on Tuesday night, huh?
Not this Tuesday night. Usually we are.
Lucky for us. Master Class is about the great Maria Callas when she taught voice at Juilliard, huh?
It's about, yes, there was a moment in her life, late in her career, in early 50s she was, where she held some very famous and well-attended master classes at Juilliard, and everybody from Tennessee Williams to Leonard Bernstein was there, and it was quite a. They were recorded, and Terrence McNally was present at those classes as well, and took from all of that a jumping-off place to talk about her, what she's done, the contributions she made to art. She changed an entire art form. And from there to really imply, really what the play's about is what it takes to do anything well.
Let me ask you about her. A lot of people only know of her when she and Onassis split up. You know, she, from what I read, she gave her life to him. She gave up singing for Aristotle Onassis. She wanted to be a woman to him.
She did, yeah. You're right. You know, until she met him, her life had been purely, since the age of 13, music, dedicated to really doing something very special. And she had a wonderful voice, and she had a very strong will. She had a big hunger to do something well, and she was a true artist. She was very serious about the work. You know, that's what the play's about. It's about the work. And then, you know, in doing so, what you pay, and we learn in the course of the play what the cost of that kind of commitment is. You can't have everything in life. You can't do everything in life. But she sacrificed who she was as a woman, by and large. She had a marriage, and then she met Onassis, and then she kind of dropped it all, and they were deeply in love with each other.
But then he left her for Jacqueline Kennedy, and that must have been a devastation for her, huh?
Yes, it was, yeah, very much so, I'm sure. And then, you know, that marriage went sour, and Ari came back to her, and there are pictures of him and her under a beach umbrella in the south of France, and he died. When he died, she didn't live that much longer. I think they were in some ways fated for each other, but the Kennedy thing was
since 13, she pursued perfection really in music. She was almost driven, and apparently, in reading about her, her mom propelled her. Her mom pushed her, urged her, cajoled her to go this way.
Yeah, she was something of a stage mother, the mom, and they didn't, unfortunately, didn't ever reconcile themselves to it. But Maria herself had the gift, had the voice, and had the will to do what she did, and the talent and the artistry and the intelligence, because you have to know how to make something better and better and better, and she did that. Before her, opera singers were very large creatures and looked out at the audience and sang these very beautiful, pure notes. And she worked with great directors as well. Visconti was a great Italian director, and she brought she did for opera what Marlon Brando did for acting. You know, I mean, and for example, Lady Macbeth was written by Verdi, and the singer was supposed to be, he said he wanted the voice ugly and to express the character. But most singers wouldn't do that. They would just sing pure and protect their voices. She never protected her voice. She was reckless, and she was deeply committed and devoted to expressing the character through the voice. And it was something new. No one had seen that before.
But I know somebody else in the arts who is driven to perfection and who wants everything right, and who has pushed herself sometimes to great limits to make it absolutely perfect.
You're going to make me cry.
No, I'm not going to make you cry.
You are.
No, but you at times have really been tough on yourself.
I still am. Yeah, I mean,
really?
Sure, you have to be. You know, I mean, I'm tough on myself, but I don't know any other way to be. I mean, I do care. It's about caring, and it's about the fun of doing it. Is what it's really about.
But can't perfection become an obsession, huh?
Oh, sure, yeah. It does. I mean, it is something of an obsession, and you know, you have to sort of keep watching yourself and saying, okay, that's enough now, you know, but I mean, if you didn't have the passion that will drive you to an obsession, then I don't know if you're all
Yeah, but I would like to think that you've come from, very early in your career, I read a quote you gave to Parade magazine: I have this need to be loved, to be admired, and to be respected. And I think you have to have that starting out.
Yes.
But I wonder if maybe you can loosen the grip when you've achieved now what you've achieved, Faye Dunaway.
Way past that, let us hope. You know, I hope that I only had those needs for about 5 minutes. I fear that it was a lot longer than that. But you have to get over, as McNally and Callis say in the play, worrying about what other people think about you. It has to be pretty early on. I did lose that. It was. I remember that quote, and it was when the whole thing of stardom was just hitting me. You know, and I thought, well, you know, it can turn your head. Then you spend the rest of your life adjusting to it and guarding and grabbing your own sanity. So yeah, I'm perfectionistic. I really work hard. I have to say that. It's true that I do. But
well, it shows. I mean,
but I like to work hard. You know?
The reaction to your work in Masterclass, and I will say this, has been wonderful, and I'm sure that you must bask and the ovation which you and your company receive at the end of this
company's
performance
wonderful. Yeah,
every night.
It's wonderful to have everyone standing and cheering, you know, for 3 or 4 curtain calls. But yeah, and through the country we've been breaking house records. But so it's gratifying. It's exciting. It's hard work.
What is it like, though? Because, you know, so many people have seen you in motion pictures and respect your work, and now they have a chance to see you in person. And so you must walk on that stage saying, I've got to deliver because they've come to see me in person.
It's a whole other ball game, too, let me tell you. You know, I mean, for me and for them, to actually see the face and, you know, see it happening in front of them is quite something unusual. And it is. It's a big obligation, but it's very strange. You sort of enter into the world of the play, of the character, and it's there. You know, you do have to work hard each night. You have to work hard to focus on what's going on the stage, to be in that moment. I mean, it's a work in progress. Most of the movies that people have seen, I've said those lines 4 times.
Yeah,
I've said these lines since September. Yeah. But you know something? I mean, it's like saying an athlete runs a 100-yard dash 4 times. You have to run it again and again to get it in your muscles, to know it, to make it second nature, so that then you can really be free on the stage. You don't have to worry about what the next word is or anything.
And what's it like when you get out of L.A. and out of New York? Like you've been to Indiana, to Indianapolis.
Yeah.
What's it like when you get out in the country? People go, wow, Faye Dunaway, wow.
You do sense that they are the middle of our country, and I sense a real kinship with those people because I'm a middle American girl too. I'm from the South, but it's not so different from Minneapolis or Indianapolis. Yeah, it's more naive. It's more lovely. You know, they try very hard to please, you know, and they're
they want you to like their town. Like if you go to a town, like when I used to go to towns when I did the show for NBC, they say, well, how do you like our town? And they're so proud of it, and you got to tell them how much you love it, because you do really after a time.
Yeah, they're very proud of it, and they care so much. You know, at one point I had a very overzealous limousine company. Did you know about it?
No, no.
And I was on my way to Mass, actually, and I had 2 or 3 limousines behind me because we'd asked them not to send a white one, you know, because you get really looked at a lot with white. And I don't
especially like a stretch big one when you.
So no, I think I'm going to walk. I just found. So then they followed me because they weren't sure what. So I looked around. I was like in a Fellini movie. But,
but they want to please you. You know?
Yeah, they were very sweet. You know.
So now, where will you go after Los Angeles with Masterclass?
We're going to lots of different cities. I don't know. We're doing sort of 1-weekers. I think again Middle West. We're going to end up hopefully in New York for the period between Thanksgiving and Christmas. But here we're just settling in here for 6 weeks or so, I hope.
Terrific, terrific. We will continue here with Faye Dunaway, who's starring in Masterclass at the Doolittle here in Los Angeles. And do check the theater pages in your local papers in case this production is coming your way, because it's gotten great notices here in L.A. We will continue with Faye and you on the toll-free at 1-800-952-2788. I'm Tom, and this is CBS. We're with Faye Dunaway, who's starring in Masterclass here in Los Angeles and soon to be across the country. Here is Micheline on the toll-free in New York City. Hi, Micheline, and welcome to CBS.
Tom.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you?
I'm fine. Hello, Miss Dunaway. I just want to tell you, I love you so much. I've seen every performance of you in Masterclass.
Oh,
in New York City. And my question for you is, what was life like growing up in small-town Florida?
Well, you know, dirt roads, and I wasn't there for much of my childhood because my father was in the Army. And so when I was in the 2nd grade, we took off for Arkansas and Texas and Utah and Germany and lived a lot of different places. But in Florida, I went back recently, and it seemed, of course, it always does so big when you're little, and it was a teeny little town, you know, just off the highway between Tallahassee and Marianna, and I was a Southern girl.
Oh, I just wanted to say to you, I think you are the diva of all actresses, and congratulations on your performances.
You know, Aretha Franklin saw the show in Detroit, and she said, the divas are out tonight.
That's right. That's what you are.
And Micheline, are you a big fan of theater and such?
Yes, I mean, I think of all the times in my life where, you know, strength was needed as a female, and Faye Dunaway has always been there, whether it be something that she said or a performance that she gave. You know, I've always been able to draw upon that.
Well, that means a lot.
Very kind, Micheline. Thanks for watching, and thanks for calling us up tonight, okay?
Okay, goodbye.
All right, bye-bye now. I understand that this summer you get to spend some time with your son, Liam.
That's right.
Who's 17 years old.
Just 17. Right.
Raging testosterone.
Yes, I think so.
And girlfriends?
Oh, yes, a few of them, yes.
And home for mom to approve, or?
Well, you know, I try to check it out, but you know, you have to give him his world. I mean, he's
Well, up to a point. Faye,
he's still involved in pranks and lots of good friends and running around. He's having a good time, you know. But he's got a few people coming and a few girlfriends that I've noticed. Had a date the other night.
Oh, did he know?
Yes, I won't say her name, but I understand she was quite lovely, and so we'll see.
And do you sit up waiting?
Oh yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah,
we have
good.
curfews, 12, 12:30.
What did he bring to your life when he was a kid? Like when you became a mom, every woman who has a kid says, you know, "This changes my life forevermore." And in your case, what happened?
They bring everything. I don't know quite how to explain it. He's taught me what love is. Really, you know, I mean, one has loved one's own parents in one's life, and you know, men and his father, of course, and my first marriage, and there's a romantic kind of love, but there's a love for a child that's very, very, very strong, and really is unconditional, you know. And kids give you a second chance, I think, too. You know, you get to go through it again and see what they're doing through their eyes, and it's a very important
and it's different for mothers from what it is for fathers, I'm sure.
I'm sure it is, you know. I'm not so sure that it's not the same in terms of just the sheer love for the child, you know. There's the innocence that goes along, there's responsibility, there's everything, there's a kind of commitment. It isn't always unconditional love between a man and a woman, you know what I mean? But
I know exactly what you mean, yes, yeah.
And it hurts because they're in the business of rejecting you. They've got to get rid of you. They've got to have their own life.
What do you mean we've got to get rid of you? You people have done your share of getting rid of us over the years, too, I'll have you know.
Are we talking about the same thing?
We're talking about men and women.
No. The child.
Oh, right, okay.
The child has to say, that's it. I have to find my life now, thanks. You know, which hurts and so it's very tricky. You know, talk about doing and the training for the job is nil. You know, we don't go to school
come with
for
any
this.
instructions.
No.
No.
So you have to sort of stumble a lot, but it's very rewarding and it's worth everything.
One thing kids do, it helps you get over yourself for a while. You know,
Exactly.
I found that when...
It takes you out of yourself.
Yeah.
It takes you out of your own self-obsession, and it tells you there's something else more important, because they are at the beginning of their life, and what they live through now is really going to matter as they grow older, you know, which you don't want to get too careful about it, because people have to make mistakes, they have to learn from them, they have to, you know, you don't want to be too protective of children.
And how was it for him when you went, you lived in London after Mommy Dearest? Didn't you sell your home and move to London
We
for a time?
did, yes.
Yeah.
His father is English and
Right.
still lives there, loves his country, really wanted to go there. And I had been very, very busy in the film industry for quite a long time.
Sure.
And I had a baby, and I wanted to be with my baby in those early years, and I'd always planned to take that time off. And it went into a longer period of time, which I'm grateful for. It meant that I had to rebuild a lot when I did finally come back in '87, but it's going pretty well. And
Yeah,
you
but,
know,
and how long were you in London?
almost a decade, from '80. I did a film over there, Wicked Lady, with Michael Winner in early '80s, and we stayed virtually, and then came back in '87, so almost 10 years.
You know, like everyone who's been there, and I've been to London, you know, we go for a week and then you come back, but you always wonder, what is it like to live there? Because when you're there, you do tea in the afternoon, and you go to theater, and it's all so civilized. And I often wondered, is it like that if you live there? Or does it take on the bustle of a big city in the States, like a Philadelphia or a New York?
Oh, it has a bustle. London has a real speed to it. But you're living, you know, you're living in another, I mean, I've lived in Europe a good deal, and I've enjoyed it. I'm not an expatriate, and I really came time where I really wanted to get home. You know, I missed my home. But it's a bustle, and it's very much the... you know, but it is in their style, you know. You have to live in their style. So we're good cousins, I found, England and here, you know, because we have an efficiency and they have a sort of grace.
And wasn't it in London, not when you lived there, but I think you went back and did a show on the stage.
Yes.
Where you had a weird experience, a strange moment on stage.
It was a play called Circe and Bravo that Harold Pinter directed, and Harold and I are good friends, and it was a two-character play, and I was playing a Martha Mitchell part, written by Donald Freed, who lives actually in Los Angeles.
And when you say a Martha Mitchell part?
Well, the role was based on Martha Mitchell. You know, the
wife of the Attorney General during the Nixon years. So she had a little drinking
problem,
and a little...
yes, talked a bit too much.
Yeah.
She was at Camp David, guarded by a Secret Service guy who didn't speak in the whole play. Talk about a difficult role. But in some of the early previews, suddenly we were in the middle of a scene and a man got out of the audience and walked up on stage and went over to the bar, and made a drink. And Stephen and I were sort of looking at him and said, what do we do now?
The guy just walked up and...
You know, and it turned out and Stephen escorted him, my co-star escorted him off stage. Turned out he'd come all the way from the Netherlands to see me. And he just felt like he was at home. I don't know. It's strange.
Man, Faye's up there. I think I'll have a pop with her.
Yes, exactly.
We are with Faye Dunaway, who's currently starring in Master Class here in Los Angeles. It'll be on the way to possibly your town in the days ahead. So check the papers, and Faye is back for a few more seconds right after this timeout.
It's a new...
Be Fit Now.
With Faye Dunaway, here's Sean on the toll-free in Chicago. Hi, Sean. Thanks for calling, and welcome to CBS.
Well, thank you very much, Tom. Be real quick here. First of all, Tom, you're a very sincere, warm man.
Thank you.
With the world's greatest laugh, I may add.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, Faye, in regards to your role in Mommy Dearest, what was your motivation for that, and was it hard playing such a mean, mean woman?
Well, you know, nobody but God will ever know what went on between that girl and that mother.
Sure.
And I think the initial attempt for the movie was to tell the whole story, because it does take two. And I don't know to what degree the book that was written on which the movie was based was an exploitation book, the first of all the rash that have come after.
That's right,
saying,
that's right.
Trying to get money by saying how awful your mother was. And as I say, I think the story is much more complex than that book indicated. And the girl was very, very cool and very, very, I think withholding of her affection.
Christina Crawford, right?
Yeah, my hunch is that Crawford was a gypsy. She was the pony on a chorus line. You know, there were very sad stories about her. You know, sometimes, you know, hearing Oklahoma wind going through those sound stages. I mean, she tried very, very hard, and I think she gave a lot and was a very great star. And I think that I don't know quite what happened between the two of them. I think in the end, the attempt to tell the whole story for you to understand who Joan was and where she came from, which is why I wanted to do it. It's why I want to do any role, to try to investigate fully who a character is and that's my job, to bring it to screen. I think I'm pleased with my work in the film. I felt the emphasis from the producers and the director in the end was more towards camp than towards really, in human terms, what happened between the two people.
Almost caricature towards the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you feel bad for the character that you played? I mean, did you have some sympathy for her?
Oh, enormous sympathy. I mean, when I play a role, I'm the defender of that role. They're my friend. I mean, I do my best to tell the truth about who she was.
Okay.
You know.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And Tom, you're a hell of a guy.
Okay, Sean, back at you, and thanks for calling tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good night, young man.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
You were in competition with Natalie Wood for Bonnie. Natalie wanted to be Bonnie, didn't she?
Oh, I don't know. There were so many people that were considered. I remember Tuesday Weld. Natalie was, I think, in the picture at one point, or was, you know, being considered or wanted to do, I don't know.
You had to lose weight for that picture. You were coming off a picture called Hurry Sundown. Wasn't that a Preminger film?
Yes, that was a Preminger film. That was the second film I did, yeah.
And you had to lose 20 pounds, I read.
Yes, well.
Well, you could toss it off. Would you like to try and lose 20 pounds today, kid? Huh?
I don't need to today.
I know, but
I'm pretty thin consistently.
Yeah.
No, I just played a farm wife in Hurry Sundown, kind of a very so we wanted her to be plumper and rounder, Otto did, and of course Bonnie needed to be very angular and edgy, right. And I had, before Hurry Sundown, I had done Hogan's Goat, which was by my dear friend William Alfred, and had been responsible and gained all the attention that Masterclass is sort of a similar thing, you know, but I was very slim in that, and then I gained some weight for the Preminger picture, and then we started immediately shooting Bonnie and Clyde, so I had to do a lot of fast.
Who was it, Mark, that was here the other night that talked about Preminger, and as a kid she was acting and she was so scared that Preminger was going to yell at her? Remember, Bernadette Peters worked in a Preminger. She said she was an 8 or 9-year-old actress, and she was terrified that because Preminger had a reputation for being tough on actors, and she'd heard him screaming at this other actor, and when it came her turn to do a scene, she was so terrified that he was going to scream at her.
He was known for that. A couple of people on each film he got upset with.
Did he get upset with Faye Dunaway?
No, not really. Well, there was one little incident where he got upset with the makeup man and blamed him for something, and I took up for the makeup man, and then he sort of said, "Why are you speaking?"
So Masterclass will be a film, and I guess you have the rights to make this motion picture.
Yes, I do. I have the film rights. And so we're going to be writing the screenplay in '98 and shooting it hopefully in the autumn of '98.
And can you take something like Masterclass, and isn't it tough to take something from the stage and put it on the screen?
Not really. So many plays have become Crimes of the Heart.
Right. Driving Miss Daisy became
Driving Miss Daisy was a great, great movie, and it was just, I actually saw that on stage as well. No, you do what's called opening it up. I think this movie probably definitely ought to stay very true to what McNally has written, which is this whole moment in a woman's life where he defines her life in a sense, you know. I mean, it takes place when her voice is not as good as it used to be, and where the options, where the situation with Ari has already gone bad, and you know, it's an amazing play because the whole first act, the audience is just howling with laughter. I mean, it's a really strong comedy. There are these three students, the first of which who comes on is a little bit hapless and who does a lot of things wrong, and Callus is very tough and very uncompromising.
Sure.
Oh, well, McNally said to me during rehearsal, he said, if you're any less hard on these students, you'll make them mediocre. And it's true. You've got to have a tough student, a tough teacher, you know. So but the comedy turns on the haplessness of one student, and Callus being absolutely who she is. I mean, he's handled who she is in a very funny way for the most part. And then this end of the first and second act, it's sort of, there's a coup de théâtre where it just sort of, the stage goes black, and you enter into the private world of the woman. It's a long monologue in both of them where you get a sense of what it was like when those glory days at La Scala, and then in the second act go into at one point I become Onassis, actually.
Really?
Yes, I have his accent and everything.
Well, this we've got to see.
You see a dialogue between the two of them. And then the end of the second act, I think it's very, very poignant, and the tragedy of what she's given up and what she's paid in order for.
Now, don't give away the surprise ending.
No, I won't.
Enjoy your stay here in Los Angeles and success on the road, and know you're always welcome here at CBS. It's a joy to see you. Thanks for coming over. My pleasure. Faye Dunaway is now appearing in Masterclass at the Doolittle here in Los Angeles, and do look for it as it comes to your town on the road between now and November. We will continue with Stephen Stark and go back to the early days of TV after these messages. And coincidentally, if you saw the movie Network, for which Faye Dunaway, my friend and guest tonight, won the Oscar, there's a scene at the beginning of that picture where the news director of the TV network in the picture, as played by William Holden, is with Peter Finch, who played Howard Beale, and you see them in a cab, and they're telling the cab driver, if my memory is correct in this picture, to go to the top of the George Washington Bridge. Now, in real life, Mort Werner and Dave Garroway hailed a cab at 6th Avenue and 49th Street on the morning of January 14th, 1952, at about 5:30 or 5:45 in the morning, to take a cab to the center of the George Washington Bridge, from whence the first telecast of the Today Show would be done, okay? One of which was the Today Show, which I want to speak about in a second. But last night here, I talked to you about a missile that went up from Vandenberg Air Force Base, and I said, I wish I had the video. And it was on the news tonight here in Southern California, and here's what this thing looked like on liftoff yesterday, or late last night, from Vandenberg Air Force Base. This was an unarmed Minuteman missile launched from the Air Force Base. The trail was the burning fuel, and the erratic path that you'll see here was caused by winds affecting the vapor trail as the rocket went up over the Pacific. Now here is what was seen from the ground here in Los Angeles last night. And for a time we had thought the missile had gone off course and they blew it up. This is not the case. As a matter of fact, it rendezvoused with another missile on target last night as they tested the guidance system. But apparently talk radio here in Southern California had all kinds of other guesses, UFOs, alien invasions, men from Mars and that. But it was about $25 or $30 million worth of American technology at work in the skies over Southern California last night. May I tell you here for a second about a man that I met early on in my TV network career at NBC, whose name is Mort Werner. God rest his soul. Mort at the time, and I met him back in 1972, 73, was the director of programming for the NBC television network and was instrumental in getting me to NBC and the Tomorrow Show back in the early 1970s. And at one point in his career, Mort was the executive producer of the Today Show before it went on the air in January of 1930. New York and New Jersey come together in this beautiful bridge overlooking New York and New Jersey. So they get in the cab, and they say to the cabbie, take us to the top, to the center of the George Washington Bridge. And the cabbie, thinking that they're going to go up there to jump off the bridge and commit suicide, takes them instead to the 17th precinct of the New York City Police Department. And Mort Werner and Dave Garroway are protesting all the way. They say, you don't understand, we have to do the Today Show. And the guy says, what in the hell is the Today Show? And they said, well, it goes on NBC at 7 o'clock in the morning. And the guy says, well, there is no television at 7 o'clock in the morning. You people are cuckoo. We're going to the police station. And it took them the better part of a half an hour to convince the cops and the authorities that they were going there to do television and not to kill themselves. Howdy, folks, and welcome back, everybody. I'm T.S. The Colorcast is on the air now for June the 24th, 1997, from CBS in Los Angeles. Faye Dunaway, the great movie star and actress, is here tonight for a return visit, and Stephen Stark, who has a wonderful book out on television way back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. He's put together his 60 all-time favorite shows.